Alright everyone, welcome back to our Axis and Allies playthrough, Japan versus the world. Now on our last turn, we actually had swapped some capital cities. The US took Berlin and Germany, and we were actually able to march in and take Moscow with a net gain in comparison to the units that we lost and the units that we took down. But since the US took Berlin the turn before, they have since been able to start manufacturing units out of Germany, and since they have basically no shortage on IPC, there's a lot of units that they can just churn out non-stop. On the positive side, we have control of the factories in both Moscow and Kaukas, so we can start churning out units from there at a pretty high efficient rate, so we don't have to continue to port units over from this portion of the map. Now, this is going to be an uphill battle, especially if we're going to try and liberate Berlin and get Germany back into this. As it currently stands, Russia and Germany have no turns because they have no units. Well, Russia has one guy left on the board, but no turns, no units left on the board. So what we're going to go ahead and do is, I mean, we've got 82 IPC to work with, so we've got to buy just a lot of ground forces. So I'm going to produce 6 tanks out of Russia, and I'm going to produce an extra 3 out of Kaukas, which leaves us with 1 more unit here and 2 more units here. The 2 units we'll put here. Let's go and do some additional infantry. And here, let's go ahead and grab an artillery. That still leaves us with 18 IPC left to use. So I want to replenish a bomber that we'll build here out of India. And that leaves us with a final unit that we can grab. So let's go ahead and get ourselves a 10th tank that we can go ahead and produce out of this factory here as well. So for our combat move, we're going to play things decently safe. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to be moving a couple of fighters in, or not fighters, but a couple of units here from Kaukas into Ukraine, bringing in a couple of tanks and planes for support there as well. And then we'll be moving in primarily tanks and a few aircraft to take over here in Belarusia, as that's the 2 areas where we've really got to establish more of a strong front. We'll be doing some more movements for precautionary purposes on a non-combat move. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and move the other 2 bombers up here because we've got 1 destroyer to take out, and if we can take out that destroyer, we can easily sink these transports and hinder the US's efforts as they go dropping units off in this area. So let's go ahead and move into the actual combat. So first off, the conflict in Ukraine, SSR. This should be pretty one-sided, and I can take some more casualties here than I can in some of my other battles without feeling as bad. Hopefully we can get at least 1 hit here, and that we do. That'll take out the 1 tank that's defending this province, and no returned fire, which is a good thing to see. Alright, on to the second fight. We now have the conflict in Belarusia, and this one could be a little bit worse on the casualty front, but we should easily be able to get this guy taken out. Yeah, there's no reason we were lacking the firepower required. Though we are going to take a hit, and since the tanks are equal in IPC worth, we'll go ahead and take the hit there and, you know, have a net neutral conflict there. Alright, now we've got ourselves a C zone, and it's just my 2 bombers versus their 1 destroyer. Really, no hits. That's unfortunate. No hits from them either. Please net me 1 hit here. That's all we needed. and no returning fire from that destroyer, which is good. That will set the US back a little bit in their efforts of funneling units in. Alright, so as our non-combat, there's a lot of movement we've got going on here. We've got our planes retreating back to the provinces that they came from, or provinces that are closer. We've got a bunch of my units from Russia moving into fortified provinces in both West Russia and Archangel. We've got tanks moving in from China to help defend up here in the Russian border. And we're also funneling as many troops we can up into this Caucasus, Russia area as well. We've got one of our planes flying in a little bit, as well as one of our artillery, the last artillery we had in the homeland, coming in to continue progressing forward across here. And we've really just got to continue fortifying this border as much as we can and forcing our way back across this area to hopefully liberate Germany and get them back in the fight. Alright, we've got troops to mobilize, so let's go ahead and drop 6 of those tanks in Russia, 3 of them here in Caucasus. The last one we were going to go ahead and put down here in India. We'll then have 2 of our infantry here, 1 of our artillery there, and a bomber down here in India, as he'll be able to reach some of the areas that we will be engaging in combat in on our next turn. Alright, turn falls back to us again. There's a lot of allied forces hanging out over here. They've got an astronomical number of forces held up here in Karelia, which is not ideal. Not ideal at all. They've also bunkered down with fortifications here in Germany also. So it's stressful. that's one way to put it. Whew. So let's go ahead and continue with our purchase strategy. We'll want to get a bunch more tanks for to build out of Russia, as well as some other units. Just wanting to make sure that I'm not getting ambushed from this side, which I'm not. So 6 tanks here, 3 tanks here. Let's get 2 more infantry and artillery to fill out the remainder of those, and then we'll go ahead and grab a final tank again that we can build down here out of our factory in India. That's going to be about it, because we've just got to focus on as many ground forces as we can get. Alright, so I was maybe going to try holding off on that, but ultimately I think I've just got to rush these forces here and take out as many of them as I can. We're about even numbers-wise. I think I've got them outclassed on the overall firepower. The only other real combat that we're focusing on at this point in time is moving a couple of bombers up here to take out this destroyer, and then these transports, especially because this transport has some units loaded onto it. They're bringing in 2 infantry and 2 tanks. So if we can take out this guy, we can net a very, not a very heavy casualty, but more of a casualty than I'm sure that they'd like to see. So let's move into what's ultimately going to be a bloodbath. So starting up with the sea battle, we've got the strike on this destroyer here, and if we can net a hit right here, that would be great, and we do. That was the only hit that we needed. And no returning fire from that destroyer, which is also really nice to see, because that nets us a victory already of almost 50 IPC with no casualties taken so far. This next fight, though, I can't say is going to go the same way. We're going to be suffering heavy casualties on both sides. So as you can see lined up here, we've got quite the array. Quite the array. So let's go ahead and start getting some damage rolled in. And we've got 1, which is better than nothing. And then we should be seeing some pretty substantial hits from here. Let's see how many we end up with. 4, 4, and 3. That's quite a significant amount, as it takes out all of these infantry, almost all of these infantry. And... well, this is going to be tight. And no hits from my bombers, which is really unfortunate. Really, returning fire from one of the bombers, that's great. We're definitely going to be picking up some hits from the infantry here. That's going to be 6. And here comes another pretty heavy volley, I'm sure. 10. That's not great. Oh, 11. That's even worse. And we're going to get at least one more here. Nope, we're going to get 2 more. So, we've sustained some pretty heavy casualties here. There's no need for me to stick around. I'm very well outnumbered at this point, so let's go ahead and back out. Alright, so in terms of fortifying, that was more heavy casualties than I should have known better than to march in like that. So, we're going to fly and fortify all of our planes back here into Russia and Moscow. We'll be bringing in a couple of tanks to further fortify up here in Archangel, and then moving more units up into these areas as well. I'm going to go ahead and let Belarusia fall. They're just going to walk in and take that super easy. Doesn't really matter where they pull them from. Well, that's going to be all we do on this turn for our non-combat. So let's move right along. Fortunately, we can lay down some more units here, so let's go ahead and get 6 of our guys here, 3 of our guys there, the last tank we were placing down here as well, and then more of these guys here and here. Would have been nice to have taken Karelia out of their hands, but they've just got it very well fortified. We'll have to see how things shake down on our next turn. But we did net a gain, more than anything else, so we'll go ahead and call this for today's episode, and we'll pick up in the next one and see how I'm holding on, because at this point it kind of seems like I'm just scraping by. Until then, well, thanks again for watching, and hope to see you in the next episode here in a few days. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe, as the subscription is free and easy, and thanks again for your time. You have a great rest of your day.